We just got a release from your office with some more kind of legal information. One of the things, however, listed in it that I found was interesting is that you made a point about any attacks on Renee or Becca and their history and warned about defamation. Have you seen things out there that are hitting that line?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have seen things online that have been stated not only about Renee, but also Rebecca that are blatantly and patently false, and we aim to stop that. And so we thought one of the best ways to do that is to start by disseminating to the press, hoping that the press would pick up on that and tell them that we are warning anybody who disseminates false information, whether it's a picture of a mugshot or states something that is not true, that we will aggressively pursue that.
This is a perhaps an ignorant question, but does that warning extend to politicians?
I don't know that it will,
Okay.
but I'm certainly, if they continue to promulgate falsities, then they are subject to a cease and desist letter and any actions that we feel is appropriate after that.
Right now, especially in Minnesota, we're in this kind of what's going to happen here in terms of accountability for what happened to Renee. Are you going to be representing the family in just civil cases or any criminal cases?
No, we will be representing the good family in the civil case only. We will not be in charge or pursuing any sort of gathering evidence for the criminal case. Obviously, if it needs to be shared and somebody asks, we would do that. But we are strictly and solely for the civil case.
And what does the civil case entail? Just to explain it to Minnesotans, like what could happen for the family in a civil case?
Well, the civil case is different than the criminal case. There are no criminal charges brought. This is a civil case which seeks recompense, which means money damages if it's determined that that's what's warranted. And so we have to gather an investigation much like any other investigation. We want to talk to people. We want to gather video evidence. We want to see trajectory analysis. We'd like to see the vehicle. We would do what anybody else would want in this case, except we have different burdens. It's not a burden of beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the one in the criminal case. Ours is a much lesser burden than that. And that will be brought before a judge who would determine if we meet that burden based upon the evidence, which means transparency. What is it that's out there?
And what do you have access to at this point?
Well, we probably have access more than you think. You would think that, just because the federal government says no, nobody else is allowed or involved, that means that we don't get access to evidence. Well, that's not necessarily true. I'm not sure I'm ready to reveal everything that we have access to, but we do have access to a lot. We're like octopus. We have arms out everywhere, and we will pursue, every available piece of evidence that's out there. If it's out there, we're gonna find it.
There's been a lot of collective trauma in Minnesota over the last 5 years, and people may not connect the dots right away from your name to why they may remember it. Um, you represented the family of Mr. George Floyd, and now you represent the family of Renee Good. And I know you're probably aware of this. We are here. Just the geographic proximity of these two lives ending very close to each other in South Minneapolis in very tragic ways that really just stopped the city in its tracks. Your experience of working with the Floyd family and now with the Good family in this time of strife in Minneapolis, have you had chance to just think about that at all, or do you?
Of course, I think about it. I'm a human and I have a soul and I care about people. So I think about it very deeply and I reflect on it. And that's why I went to George Floyd Square, not only to see the memorial if it was still there and to see who was there and what was there. I wanted to see in particular if one thing was still there, and it wasn't. But it'll be forever etched in my mind because I have a photograph of it and I carry it with me. And it's a picture that I took of the billboard that was above Cup Foods, which is now Unity Foods. and it was called Mama. And if you recall, it was the four images of George Floyd's mother in different states of grieving, of despair, of surprise, of despondency. And that kind of is a reflection of what I feel is happening in Minneapolis right now. We're crying again. There are tears. We're going through different stages of grieving because, people have asked me, what do you do in a case like this? Well, this is a lot of uncharted territory, isn't it? When have we last seen the invasion of an American city by our own government? We're not in a battlefield here. We're not, across the oceans fighting a war. This is an American city. And to see George Floyd and Renee Good, two bookends, what, within maybe a mile of each other? I didn't measure it, but it's so close. It's literally minutes. It really brings heartache. And I think that's why if you bring it back to that billboard of Mama, there are tears in the city.